Have you ever wondered what lies behind the ornate gates of India's most exclusive addresses? What secrets are held within the walls of ancient Havelis turned modern mansions? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on a world few ever get to see. The fascinating realm of India's ultra-wealthy elite. Did you know that India adds a new billionaire every month? But that's just the tip of the iceberg. In a country where tradition meets modernity at every corner, the story of wealth takes on dimensions you wouldn't believe. From tech moguls in Bangalore to industrial dynasties in Mumbai, we're about to embark on a journey into a world where ancient wisdom meets modern affluence in ways that will surprise you. The rise of Indian wealth, a tale of transformation. What if I told you that the story of India's super-rich is actually a story of transformation? While the Maharajas of old once defined Indian wealth, today's landscape tells a dramatically different tale. In the heart of Mumbai's Altamount Road, nicknamed Billionaire's Row, new money meets old in a fascinating dance of tradition and innovation. But here's something that might surprise you. Unlike many Western nations, over 60% of India's ultra-wealthy are first-generation entrepreneurs. These aren't just inheritors of ancient fortunes, they're architects of modern empires, crafting success stories from the ground up in industries from technology to pharmaceuticals. The journey of Indian wealth is intrinsically tied to the country's economic liberalization in 1991. That watershed moment transformed India's business landscape, creating opportunities that would birth a new generation of wealth. But what's truly fascinating is how this new wealth interacts with centuries-old traditions of Indian business families. Let me share something remarkable. Many of today's Indian billionaires started their journeys in modest middle-class homes. Take the story of India's tech giants. Many began in small apartments in Bangalore, armed with nothing but a computer and a dream. Today, they're revolutionizing everything from e-commerce to digital payments, creating wealth at a pace that would have been unimaginable just a generation ago. The new guards versus the old guard. Now, let me share something fascinating about India's wealthy elite that few people know. There's an invisible line that separates two distinct worlds. On one side, we have the traditional business families, the Tatas, Birlas, and Godrejs, whose names have been synonymous with Indian wealth for generations. Their story is one of legacy, tradition, and the art of preserving wealth across generations. But what's truly intriguing is what's happening on the other side. The new tech billionaires of Bangalore, the pharmaceutical moguls of Hyderabad, and the fintech pioneers of Mumbai are rewriting the rules of Indian wealth. They're bringing a different flavor to what it means to be rich in India. The contrast between these two worlds is striking. Traditional business families often operate like mini-governments, with complex family constitutions and business protocols developed over generations. They maintain strict hierarchies and often have family councils that make major decisions collectively. In contrast, the new wealth creators operate with the agility of tech startups, even after achieving billionaire status. They're more likely to embrace risk, pivot quickly, and break with tradition. But here's what's fascinating. Many are now creating their own family offices, learning from the old guard about wealth preservation while maintaining their innovative spirit. What happens when these worlds collide? That's where things get really interesting. We're seeing unprecedented collaborations between old money and new tech, creating hybrid business models that combine the stability of traditional businesses with the innovation of tech startups. Living large Indian style. You might think you know luxury, but Indian luxury? That's a different game altogether. Let me take you behind the scenes of a world where ancient traditions meet modern extravagance in ways you wouldn't believe. Picture this. Staffs of over 50 people maintaining single residences, luxury car collections that would put museums to shame, and family astrologers on speed dial making multi-million-dollar decisions. But here's what's really interesting, and something few people talk about. The daily lives of India's super-rich reveal fascinating contradictions that few outsiders ever get to see. They might fly private jets to business meetings but won't make major decisions without consulting their family guru. They'll have homes in London and New York, but maintain strict vegetarian kitchens in all of them. The homes of India's wealthy elite are masterpieces of this cultural fusion. Traditional Indian architectural elements like courtyards and prayer rooms exist alongside modern luxuries like indoor pools and home theaters. Some have entire floors dedicated to yoga and meditation, while others maintain museum-quality collections of traditional Indian art alongside contemporary masterpieces. But what's truly fascinating is their approach to luxury. While Western luxury might be about the latest brands and newest gadgets, Indian luxury often has a deeper cultural connection. Take, for example, the trend of maintaining organic farms on private estates, a modern twist on the traditional Indian connection to land and agriculture. Eccentric yet traditional, the peculiar habits of India's elite. Now let me share something that will truly surprise you. While billionaires worldwide might collect art or vintage cars, India's wealthy elite have some uniquely cultural obsessions. Some maintain entire floors in their homes dedicated to traditional Indian musical instruments worth millions. Others have private museums housing ancient manuscripts and texts. But wait until you hear this. There's a growing trend among India's tech billionaires to hire full-time Sanskrit scholars to teach their children ancient Indian texts right alongside their coding lessons. It's this fascinating blend of the ancient and modern that makes India's wealthy class truly unique. Some maintain personal temples that cost millions to build and operate, complete with resident priests who perform daily rituals. Others have private yogashalas where world-renowned gurus come to teach. One billionaire even reconstructed an entire ancient Indian village on his estate, complete with traditional artisans practicing their crafts. Before we reveal even more fascinating details about these unique lifestyles, we'd love to hear from you. Which of these wealthy habits surprised you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, hit that like button, and subscribe to learn more fascinating secrets of the world's most interesting people. Now let's dive into where India's super rich really spend their time. The secret social circles. You might think you know where the wealthy hang out, but India's elite social circles operate on a completely different frequency. Forget about typical country clubs. We're talking about members-only clubs that have waiting lists spanning generations. But that's just the beginning. These exclusive circles often revolve around ancient traditions with modern twists. Take, for example, the invitation-only Diwali parties where guest lists are as carefully curated as museum collections, or the private classical music concerts where minimum net worth requirements are never stated but implicitly understood. What's fascinating is how these social circles maintain their exclusivity while adapting to modern times. Many now have their own apps and private social networks, combining traditional Indian networking with modern technology. Some groups even maintain their own private jets for group pilgrimages to sacred sites, a modern take on an ancient tradition. Preparing the next generation. Here's something that might surprise you. While many of India's super-rich send their children to prestigious schools abroad, there's a growing trend that's raising eyebrows. Some of India's wealthiest families are creating their own ultra-exclusive educational institutions, combining international curriculum with traditional Indian values. But wait until you hear about the family constitution trend, where wealthy families are creating detailed rulebooks for future generations, combining modern wealth management principles with ancient family traditions. These documents can run hundreds of pages, covering everything from marriage guidelines to business succession plans. The preparation of the next generation goes beyond formal education. Many wealthy families maintain what they call next-gen programs, carefully crafted experiences designed to instill both business acumen and cultural values. These might include mandatory internships in family businesses, philanthropic projects, and even periods of living simply to understand their privileges. The philanthropy paradox. Now, let me share something fascinating about how India's wealthy give back. While Western billionaires might make headlines with massive charitable foundations, India's super rich often practice what I call stealth philanthropy, massive charitable works done quietly, often anonymously, following the ancient Indian principle of Gupt Dan, secret charity. But here's what's really interesting. Many are now creating a unique blend of traditional Indian charitable practices with modern impact investing. They're not just building temples, though some still do. They're creating entire educational ecosystems and sustainable communities. Some of India's wealthy families maintain entire towns, providing everything from healthcare to education for thousands of people. Others focus on preserving traditional arts and crafts, ensuring ancient skills aren't lost to time. What's remarkable is how they're using modern business principles to make these charitable initiatives sustainable. The future of Indian wealth. As we wrap up our journey through the world of India's super rich, let me share one final revelation that might surprise you. While the next decade will likely see India adding billionaires faster than almost any other nation, something fascinating is happening beneath the surface. A new generation of wealthy Indians is emerging, one that's more conscious about sustainability, more focused on impact, and more interested in preserving India's cultural heritage while pushing the boundaries of innovation. They're not just wealthy, they're wealthy with a purpose. This new generation is redefining what it means to be rich in India. They're creating wealth that's not just measured in rupees but in impact. They're building businesses that honor their roots while reaching for the stars. And perhaps most importantly, they're showing the world that there's a uniquely Indian way of being wealthy, one that balances tradition with innovation, luxury with responsibility, and personal success with societal progress. The story of India's super rich isn't just about money. It's about tradition meeting innovation, ancient wisdom meeting modern ambition, and most fascinatingly, about how one of the world's oldest civilizations is creating its own unique definition of what it means to be wealthy in the 21st century. Remember, what we've shared today is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to explore about the fascinating world of India's ultra-wealthy. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll dive deep into another fascinating aspect of the world's most exclusive circles.